fan of technique. Beautiful fight to watch.
And here we go.
Oh! What a fight!
Ba-boom. Right to the solar plexus.
Brutal combination there, John.
Beautiful to watch.
Wow, 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 wow.
He clipped him there. He clipped him there.
His grappling, his striking, everything he does is world class.
This is why mixed martial arts is the fastest growing sport in the world.
People don't realize how good he is until you're in there with him.
We move on over to the welterweight bout that will be featured on the main card on Saturday. Donald Cerrone will be taking on Jorge Masvidal. Donald Cerrone going for his 20th win inside of the UFC, and he will be giving up a 1-inch reach advantage to Jorge Masvidal, who is looking to build off of wins over Ross Pearson and most recently Jake Ellenberger in December. We spoke with Jorge Masvidal earlier this week.
I get to see things in like slow motion and I can react to it. Not being nervous, being calm, like, I see that left hand coming right after I hit him with the right hand. My body, I don't have to tell my body, oh, duck, my body just does it. And then when I see the tape, I'm like, whoa. So it's a lot to do with the age that I started at and the natural ability that God gave me. That's what, being born to do this is. I've spent more time under that rope bobbing and weaving than most people spend watching TV probably. And I'm not even exaggerating. The combination of natural ability and just how many times I've repped it out, Hashtag easy money, because this is easier to me, Fighting is what I like to do.
Jorge Masvidal in a position where he can very much curb the momentum of Donald Cerrone, who had a red-hot year in 2016. 4 wins, all at welterweight. And this is a guy that when we look at the fact that on Saturday he could surpass George St. Pierre, tying Michael Bisping for the most wins in UFC history. And this is Michael Bisping, who has had a 5-year head start on Donald Cerrone's career in the UFC. Certainly a lot at stake for Donald Cerrone, but Masvidal may be his toughest opponent he's had at welterweight.
Yeah, and he understands that, and he's talking about getting a title shot. The only way you get title shots is by facing the best fighters, the most dangerous fighters in the world. And if he can look good against game-bred Masvidal, especially by taking this guy out, if you can knock him out or you can submit him, you have to imagine that Donald Cerrone is going to rise to the top and be one of the guys considered a top challenger for the winner of Tyron Woodley and Stephen Thompson, because Cerrone is the full package. When you put your money down to see fights, Donald Cerrone's on the fight card. He delivers every single time. On top of that, we've seen him improve. His mental state, he said it's the best he's ever been in his mixed martial arts career. He takes a beating and he gets right back up. There are so many reasons to love Donald Cerrone. First of which is that he's a gamer. I guess not every time. The RDA fight is one of those fights he didn't seem to get up for, but normally, most of the time, Donald Cerrone is ready to throw down.
But those highlights we just saw, Cody, that was 7 weeks ago here in Toronto, and Donald Cerrone took a lot of damage in that particular fight. He's taking on a guy in Jorge Masvidal who, let's be honest, he just had a fight a week prior to that, but didn't suffer any of the kind of damage Donald Cerrone did. Cerrone, we know what answer he would give us, but is he pushing things here by this quick return against a very skilled opponent in Masvidal?
Well, is Donald Cerrone ever pushing things? This is a guy that's based his career on taking these short notice fights, and this is not even a short notice fight. There's just that question mark of how much damage did he take in the UFC in Toronto and how much was he able to bounce back. But this is a guy that just lives his life freely, and whenever you talk to people who are inside of his camp, they always tell you the same thing. He's partying really hard. Maybe he hasn't training. And when we see the results every time again, 4-0, as you mentioned, at welterweight, and as John said, maybe he doesn't get up every single time. 12-1 over his last 13 fights. He's on an extraordinary roll right now. At 33 years old, the time is probably now, if ever, to get that additional title shot at 170 pounds. And when you look at George Masvidal, you look at how durable this guy is. Cerrone has finished all 4 of those opponents at welterweight. Masvidal has not been finished since 2009 when Toby Amata caught him in a freak submission, so to speak. He is as durable as any competitor in the UFC. So a big statement win for Donald Cerrone should be enough to push him into those talks. Flip side to that, a win by George Masvidal, doesn't matter how many split decision losses he has, that win will make people realize how talented this guy is.
However, I'm not 100% certain because of the fact people right now are saying, this guy's not that good. I watched him lose a whole bunch of fights. You look at his last 6 or 7 fights, I think there's a bunch of losses in there. However, they're all split decision losses, and if you've watched those fights, you understand just how good Masvidal is. All those fights are very close, and he is very, very competitive. So I think a lot of casual fans, they just see the stats, and they assume, oh, based on the fact that he's lost a bunch of times, he's not very good. So I think he can't just go out and beat Donald Cerrone by pointing him. A split decision win isn't going to do it. He's got to go out and really make a statement by bringing it to the Cowboy.
Well, to that point, though, Jorge Masvidal is a smart fighter. He's someone that, after experiencing a number of split decision setbacks, he's gone out and sought judges. He's went and spoke to the judges after fights and said to them, what did I do wrong? What can I do differently? This is someone who's very invested in his career, is very smart, and when he gets in there, he operates just as you'd expect him to. But when you look at his last 2 performances, maybe he's turned a corner. And if Jorge Masvidal's turned a corner, we already knew how talented he was. Imagine if he does what he does to Ally Quinton in round 1, all 3 rounds. He's just got to get over that mental hurdle. And if this is the new game bred, then I'm very excited to see what he can do.
It's also worth noting in the Ross Pearson fight, I mean, that was a fight Masvidal certainly won, but he has a frequency of, like, he plants that left lead leg really clean on the mat, and Ross Pearson did a lot of damage with those inside leg kicks. You have to wonder if Donald Cerrone looks at something where he can break down Jorge Masvidal, and later in this fight, if that's going to open up any opportunities for him as well. This is going to be an interesting chess match of 2 very top-tier strikers at welterweight.
Yeah, the one thing I really do like is that Masvidal never seems in a rush. There doesn't seem to be any urgency, and it seems that's why he loses fights by split decision. In the fight with Jake Ellenberger, where Ellenberger was going after him, you really see what he's capable of when he's aggressive. I think Donald Cerrone will be able to bring that to him and bring out the best in Masvidal, and we're going to see an action fight.
It's an early one because of the Fox schedule. You can tune into the prelim starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. TSN 5 has you covered in Canada with 6 fights that will whet your appetite for the main card.